Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say hello. And I'm going to try and pre-record this so that we all have a video to look at. I'm going to probably cancel class. I am not doing it too well, but I just wanted to say hello and record this lecture. I will hide my face because nobody needs to see this. But I hope everybody is having a fantastic week. Um, and yeah, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm so sorry that I'm missing you guys today. And yeah, I wanted to apologize. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, just want to chat, please, 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 please reach out to me. I may be a little slow to respond, but I'm hoping I'll feel better by the weekend and I'll be able to respond a lot more then. But yeah, I'm gonna hide my face now and I miss you all. And yeah, I'm sorry we couldn't meet today. But today we're gonna go over some leadership stuff as well as our final project and upcoming assignments. I don't have a meditation in this. I'm just trying to keep it as short as possible. There's also a lot more writing to kind of hopefully help us visualize what I'm saying a little bit more. And hopefully this is coherent because yeah, I have not been very coherent today. So, all right, let's hide my face. So our objectives for today are to identify current issues that impact stakeholders in early childhood care and education. A stakeholder is anybody who is invested in a field. So like a stakeholder in early childhood education would be children, right? The early childhood field affects children. It would be families, it would be preschool teachers, it'd be administration, honestly, it'd be the community as a whole. And even like states could be stakeholders if it's public education. The second objective is to describe strategies for understanding current issues as a professional in early childhood care and education. And the third is to create an informed response to a current issue as a professional in early childhood care and education. Also, if no sniffling bothers you, I am wholeheartedly apologize. I will try to keep it to a minimum. I know I'm icky, I'm gross. I probably sound horrible, but we're working with what we got. Oh, my button doesn't work. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to start us off with this quote. Instead of seeing the rug being pulled from under us, we can learn to dance on a shifting carpet. So I invite you to pause for a moment and think, what does this mean to you? For me, this means instead of just being a bystander in our lives, we can actively and proactively um, do things that affect our lives. We can learn how to take a little bit more control in a situation that may seem uncontrollable and make the best out of it. I mean, dancing's fun. I would love to, I mean, not go dancing right now, but I do love to dance. So, change. The field of early childhood education is always changing. The more we learn, the more it changes. And it's a good thing. This change is good because as we learn more, we're able to create even higher quality care. Change happens because of natural and historical events. COVID brought about a lot of change. The implementation of licensing brought up a lot of change. And now, with early achievers and preschool teachers encouraged to get more education, that's also more change just in the state of Washington. So, this new knowledge about the way that children develop and learn really does affect our work with children. So, yeah, I've talked about COVID-19. Also, heightened tensions and violence concerning skin color, the Black Lives Matter movement, and the different ways the behavior of children of color tend to be perceived, that school to prison pipeline, that fact that children of color are disproportionately expelled from preschools compared to their white counterparts. That knowing all this coming to light, are all things that we can learn more about and actively create a classroom that is equitable, that is diverse, and that is supportive for all children and families. We also have a better understanding of how trauma affects the brain. Back in the 70s, 80s, we thought that children's brains were so plastic that it didn't matter if they had traumatic events happening to them. We thought that they would just grow out of it. So we did not give children psychological care or help or mentorship or counseling. So children who witnessed horrific events, neglect, abuse, just absolutely horrific events, were seen to be fine. Nobody really asked them how they were. Nobody sought to get them counseling. They just said, oh, their brains they have plasticity, so they'll forget about it and they'll be able to overcome it because they're a child. Now we know different. Now we know that that trauma has lasting effects to that child into adulthood. So these changes in knowledge and these this increased awareness, require adaptation on the part of the field of early childhood care. And there are also current issues. So as we learn more, we also uncover more issues that we can then address and hopefully combat with our own practices. So can't really discuss. If you have somebody in your room with you want to discuss these with, that would be a great opportunity, but we'll emphasize the reflect right now. And grab a pen and paper if you have one, type this out on your laptop, tablet, phone, and answer these questions. So you may know at an intellectual level what change is part of the deal, but what about deep down? Do you sometimes long for everything to just stay the same for a little while, especially when you're on vacation? I know that when I'm on vacation, depending on how long the vacation is, I look forward to actually going back home and getting back into the routine because the vacation itself is a change from normalcy. And I tend to be a very routine-oriented person. When you consider the idea of change, how does it make you feel? Anxious, excited, maybe just a little tired? There is this awesome video that I saw, a TikTok video from Dad Chats, and he was explaining how his son is named Mason, really did not like change. And his pre-K teacher that year noticed this and started prompting excitement when things changed. She started changing one or two things around the room and she'd say, hey, Mason, can you find the things I've changed? So she turned it into a game to help him adapt to change better. And he went from a child who really did not like change and really could become inconsolable when things would change to a child who excitedly sought out change. So this idea of change is really important. What factors impact your response? And then what were your first thoughts when you sat back and felt the reality of ever-present change? When you realized that things just change constantly and accepted that. Maybe you haven't accepted it. I still like to fight change a lot, honestly. But that's sitting back and accepting that change happens. And that's just part of life. Like, how did that feel? So, what can help with change? Our practices in the classroom and as leaders must constantly adapt to changes in our communities and our understanding of the world around us, which gives us the opportunity to continue to grow and develop. Change, although scary, is also an opportunity for growth. Obstacles, although hard, also another opportunity for growth. Change can be uncomfortable. And having tools, including the NAEYC Code of Ethical Conduct, helps us make decisions in new circumstances. So something is new or we don't know about something and there's ethics behind it, that code of ethical conduct can really help and guide us. And working with a team can also help refine our ideas, right? If people led with just their own ideas, not everybody would be heard and seen. And decisions that could impact the lives of many would be made just based off the experiences of one. So making sure we know what the experiences for others are, we listen to them, and we make our decisions to make sure that we have the greatest positive impact for all. So we're gonna watch this video, and let me mute myself so I don't sniffle.
Welcome to Up Skills for Work. Help build your skills for learning, work, and life. Adaptability. 4 steps of adapting to change. What is adaptability? Adaptability is a skill. It's feeling okay when you have to change how you think or act. Being adaptable helps you deal with life's ups and downs, and it can make you a more valuable employee. Adapting to change can take time, but it's an important skill you can learn. Here are 4 common steps of adapting to change. Step 1. You feel uncomfortable. Step 2. You try to understand the change. Step 3. You think about how you will adapt. Step 4. You adapt to the change. Keeping these steps in mind can help you stay calm and positive. Youssef works in a factory. His manager sends him an email. The company is changing everyone's work schedule. Youssef will need to start his shift earlier in the morning. The way you usually do things, your routine, is comfortable. A change in your routine can make you feel uncomfortable. Youssef is unhappy. He likes working 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and the people he works with on the shift. He likes that he can drop his son off at school on his way to work. Youssef tells Ken, his coworker, that he doesn't like the shift change. Ken reminds him that the new schedule might be hard at first, but there are things Youssef can do to adapt. So Youssef tries to understand what the change will mean for him at home and at work. Will he need before-school care for his son? How early will he need to wake up each day? Who will he be working with on the new shift? Next, Youssef starts to think about how he'll adapt to the change in schedule. He calls the before care program at his son's school to see if there's room. He realizes that he'll need to go to bed earlier each night, and he thinks about how working with new people might be interesting. After a few months, Youssef is used to the new schedule, and he has a new routine. He has adapted to the change. Change can be difficult. Being adaptable means you have to change the way you think, act, and maybe your routine. But adaptability is a valuable skill in both work and life. With time and practice, you can improve your adaptability skills. To create a plan to improve your learning skills for work and life, visit upskillsforwork.ca.
Alrighty, let me blow my nose real quickly. All right, my apologies. That took a while. It led to 10,592 sneezes. Exactly. Okay. So jokes aside, change is scary, but change can also be a really, really awesome thing. So this video discussed the 4 steps of adapting to change. Have you used these 4 steps in your life to adapt to change? And if you have, what did you do? And if you haven't used these steps, how do you see yourself using these steps when something changes? So in your toolbox, you have the NAYC code or NACI, NIAC, however you say it, of ethical conduct, the NACI, NIAC, and AUIC statement on race and racism. You also have an equity lens. You have your team, your support system, and you have your own courage and commitment to the well-being of every child for change in the early childhood field. Are there any other things you can think of that could be added into your toolbox? I would also say flexibility and adaptability. All right, so small group activity is turning into singular activity. If you pull up the PowerPoint, which is linked in Canvas, you can open up this words. What is this? This is an article. You can open up this article and then think about the challenges mentioned in the article. And then are there additional factors of working in early childhood education that influence these challenges? Just think about this to yourself. We don't really have an opportunity to discuss, but in the announcements, I will post this lecture into the announcements. And if we feel like discussing, I'll leave that announcement open to comments. So you can comment kind of what you've thought of if you would like to under the announcement with this lecture. That's not your thing, you're not feeling it, I totally understand. There is no pressure. Oh, look, you can see all my tabs open. That's cool. Okay. So moving on to racism and bias. Racism is systemically intertwined into our society. As unfortunate as it is. Oh, I'm sorry. I got a notification saying that I was muted. I'm not muted, right? Oh, I really hope you can hear me. We're going to keep going. So at the forefront in our culture and early childhood care and education, in recent years have been skin color, bias, prejudice, and that's kind of like that school to prison pipeline like I was talking about. So making sure that our classrooms reflect the diverse families that we serve and that we ourselves are comfortable with and open to learning about the diverse families that we serve. Tensions within and toward communities and individuals of color have been especially visible in the news because of police violence against Black and Brown men and women and the subsequent demonstrations that took place in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. And children see and hear the media and adult conversations, and they feel the unease or even fear around questions of difference. So we need to be open about discussing difference and viewing difference with a growth mindset instead of viewing differences as an obstacle that we should just completely avoid, because that's not how life is. So this has also heightened our responsibility as early educators to approach these issues in the classroom and to do it with sensitivity and self-awareness. So making sure we understand our own implicit biases and making sure we understand our actions and the thoughts that lead to those actions and the beliefs that lead to those actions, and questioning them and seeing, where did that come from? Why do I have that thought? And understanding that everybody has bias. Everybody has implicit biases. Just making sure that we understand what they are so we can pause for a moment and say, hey, that's where that's coming from. And that might not be the best thing to do. That might not be the best thing to say or think. So let's rewind, take a step back, and come at this with a different mindset. So studies of expulsion rates from preschool showed that Black children were twice as likely to be expelled as white preschoolers and 3.6 times as likely to receive one or more suspensions. This also just brings up the fact that should 3 and 4-year-olds be expelled? I personally do not think so. I want to know what your thoughts are. Another great thing we could put in, you could comment in the announcements. But I really do not believe that we should be expelling 2, 3, 4-year-olds, right? There's something going on under there that is our job to uncover. And if we do not have the proper tools to uncover that, we don't expel them. We say, hey, we don't have the tools or resources. We, for some reason, cannot get them. And we refer them to centers who can provide better care for all these children, for all children in general. So starting as young as infancy and toddlerhood, children of color are at higher risk for being expelled from early childhood care and education programs. I'm going to repeat that. Infants. Infants are expelled from early childhood care. What is an infant doing to deserve to be expelled? There's nothing that I can think of that a child under the age of 1 needs to be expelled for. Early expulsion and suspensions lead to greater gaps in access to resources for young children and thus create increasing gaps in later achievement and well-being. This also internalizes the idea that school is not for me. The system is not for me. So why should I like it? Why should I be smart? Why should I try at school? If whatever I'm going to do, I'm just going to get expelled or I'm going to get yelled at or people are just going to see me, right? So this has detrimental effects for a child for a lifetime. Research indicates that early expulsions and suspensions predict later expulsions and suspensions, academic failure, school dropout, and an increased likelihood of later incarceration. Preschool to prison pipeline, school to prison pipeline. There's a really interesting paper from SDSU about the preschool to prison pipeline that if anyone's interested in reading, just let me know and I can send that your way. You could also just search up SDSU or San Diego State University and the preschool to prison pipeline, which has devastating and costly consequences. All right, I'm gonna blow my nose again. We're gonna take a little pause. All right, no sneezing that time, we're back. So why does this happen? Why are preschoolers expelled? Why is there bias? Why is there racism? Well, I guess the expulsions are because of bias and racism. I got a little ahead of myself. So it's because of biased implementation of disciplinary policies. There's studies that show that children, a Black child will be doing the same thing as a white child, but the Black child will be more often corrected than the white child because teachers are anticipating a problem with the Black child where they're not anticipating a problem with the white child. But I'm not saying we all do this, but I am saying that this is what research has shown is done. And then there's also discriminatory discipline practices. Same thing with the disciplinary policies, school racial climate, under-resourced programs, and inadequate education and training for teachers, especially in self-reflective strategies to identify and correct potential biases and perceptions in practice. This is why we do implicit biases tests. This is why we reflect on our beliefs and how those beliefs can end up having a negative effect on the child possibly, and why we pause for a moment and instead of acting on those beliefs, we say, hey, where is this coming from? Let's be better people. Let's have a growth mindset. Let's be better together. So it is not possible to simultaneously respect the dignity, worth, and uniqueness of every individual and watch a significant number of students from a particular group be expelled from the early learning experience. Realizing this may frequently be a first step in a process of punishment by loss of opportunity for the rest of a child's life. So there are many things that we can do, many advocacy efforts that we can do, including just personal practice. So making sure that we're watching what we're doing and our disciplinary actions for every child and making sure that they remain the same or they remain fitting, they remain equitable. So they're fitting for each child without being unnecessarily punitive or just punitive in general. Discipline should not be punitive. Discipline should be a teaching moment. And I forgot where I was going with the rest of that. So just gonna let your brains fill in the blank. So be the change you want to see, right? We talked about change and our ideas with change. Well, guess what? We can control it at some point. At some point, we can be the change. We can change with the change, and we can be the reason for the change. How many times can I say change in one sentence? So compassion for every child, and want every child to have opportunities to grow into happy, responsible adults who achieve their goals. What a great reason for change. Respecting the dignity and worth of every individual. It's a huge start to becoming a leader, working as an advocate for social justice. Another great reason to be the change. Commitment to trainings that focus on anti-bias, anti-racist, and being culturally responsive. Incorporate activities that promote respect for diversity, and be actively looking for more. Just because we throw in a couple diverse activities does not mean we're done. We as teachers are lifelong learners, and that also means a lifelong commitment to anti-racist, anti-bias, and culturally responsive teaching. So intentionality about including materials that reflect people with different racial identities, genders, and family structures. This includes books, posters, little toy people, etc. Dramatic play. And then also commitment to spending some time diving into your own internalized biases. We have to understand ourselves and our ideas to better understand why we are the way we are and why we act the way we act. I need to blow my nose again. Where's my mute? All right, just adding to my 20,467 sneezes. So Maya Angelou once quoted, "I did then what I knew how to do. Now that I know better, I do better." Goes back to what I was talking about. When you know better, you can do better. Be the change you want to see. Work to understand your own feelings, your own implicit biases. Strive to see where you're at, be kind to yourself, and make goals for where you want to be, and then make steps towards those goals. Root yourself in the values of early childhood care and education. Make sure to examine your own practices, your own policies, structures, or systems that affect your program, and consider changing this if you see any issues. Ask yourself, where could change happen? Who could you collaborate with to make this change? Could you ask your team, hey, is there any change that you want to see happen? What is your reasoning for wanting this change? How can you make sure the people being affected by this change can help inform your response? Best way, asking them. Make a plan, including a big vision and small steps, and start taking those small steps. Acknowledge that you are courageous for wanting to make change, for wanting to implement change. Change is scary, it takes courage. And advocate for children and their families. You can even advocate for your teachers and yourself while you're at it. So we briefly discussed and alluded to children and trauma. Trauma-informed care in early childhood education is a crucial approach that focuses on understanding the impact of trauma on young children's development and behavior. So this emphasizes creating safe, supportive, secure environments that help children heal and thrive. When it comes with the lens, like when you work with children who have trauma, you come with a trauma-informed lens. So you understand that their actions and reactions are part of a system in their brain that has helped them survive whatever trauma they have undergone. The NACE, NAEYC, NIAC, however you want to say it, the CDC, and the American Academy of and the American Academy of Pediatrics all support the implementation of trauma-informed care and practices in early childhood settings. So if you do not know about trauma-informed care, I highly, highly recommend doing your own research. How can you implement trauma-informed practices and care into your classroom? How can you do this for your employees? What resources can you provide for your employees so that they understand what trauma-informed practices are, and so that they can implement trauma-informed practices into their classroom? By recognizing the signs of trauma and providing appropriate support, educators can help children build resilience, develop healthy coping mechanisms, and reach their full potential. They can also help children create secure attachments, which that secure attachment is so necessary for the foundation of later relationships. Understanding trauma and its effects is essential for creating a nurturing and empowering educational environment for all children, not just for some, but for all. So we're going to talk about ACEs in this video. ACEs stand for Adverse Childhood Experiences, and alludes to traumatic events in a child's life. So trauma-informed care can really help combat children who are suffering from one or more ACEs.
A child's experiences early in life are important building blocks for the developing brain. Genes, nature, are like the blueprint. They provide the basic framework for brain development. However, genes do not design the brain completely. Environmental influences, nurture, fine-tune how the brain works by shaping which brain connections get used. Connections that are used more grow stronger and more permanent, whereas ones that do not get much use fade away. Together, genes and the environment build the foundation for all future development. Safe, stable, and nurturing relationships early in life lead to healthy development. But children's brains capture other experiences as well. Stressful events. However, not all stress is bad. Positive stress involves normal childhood experiences, like starting daycare or meeting a new person for the first time. This stress is essential for healthy development because it helps children develop coping skills and confidence. But when stress is frequent, chronic, and uncontrolled, it is toxic to children, especially when they do not have a caregiver to provide support or buffer the stress. Adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, such as abuse, neglect, exposure to intimate partner violence, parental depression or addiction, and poverty, are toxic stressors which could lead to lifelong changes in learning and behavior. ACEs early in development can impact social, emotional, and cognitive functioning, increased risk-taking behavior such as drinking and substance use, and increased risk of disease, disability, and social problems later in life. The question is, how do adverse childhood experiences impact a lifelong development? One of the most important systems in our body is our stress system. It's activated when we experience stress. We become alert, our heart rate increases, and so do our stress hormone levels, cortisol and adrenaline. Our body is ready to react, what is known as fight or flight. A short period of time after the stress is over, or if a child receives support from a caregiver, the stress response turns off and the body returns to a normal state. Adverse childhood experiences create stress responses that stay active, and without the support of a caregiver, the system has difficulty shutting off completely. This constant and prolonged activation can affect immune system functioning and increase the chances of sickness, infection, and disease. Prolonged activation of stress hormones is also toxic to the brain. Certain areas of the brain are more vulnerable to toxic stress, including the executive center, or the brain's control center, an area important for solving complex problems, attention, reasoning, impulsivity, inhibition, and learning. A second area is the emotional center, the brain's alarm system, which is involved in processing and interpreting emotions and the ability to control impulses. The third area is the memory and learning center, the brain's filing cabinet, which plays a major role in learning and the formation and retrieval of memories. Science shows that adverse childhood experiences impact all of these brain centers. Behaviorally, what we begin to see is emotional distress, poor emotion regulation, greater impulsivity, learning difficulties, and physical and mental health problems. More recently, science has begun to look at how ACEs cause changes in gene expression through a process called epigenetics, which helps us understand how nature and nurture interact. Epigenetics causes changes in the way genes work without changing the DNA code itself. This occurs through chemical changes influencing how the code is used. In other words, genes are like the hardware in a computer. They determine the boundaries of what is possible. However, we need an operating system to tell the hardware what to do. Epigenetics is like the operating system directing the function of a gene's DNA hardware. The genes we are born with are the genes that we have for life, but experiences like nutrition, exercise, smoking, stressors, and relationships all affect our biology. Adverse childhood experiences are associated with epigenetic changes related to stress, brain development, cognition, and systems associated with mental and physical health. Changes that happen early in brain development are more likely to be enduring and are possibly passed on to future generations as well. The good news is that positive, supportive relationships at any stage in life can make a difference. However, supporting families and children early on will help prevent many of these negative outcomes. One of the key ingredients for healthy development is having warm, loving, and actively engaged caregivers. This involves promoting serve and return interactions, where caregivers actively and warmly engage with the child, making eye contact, responding to sounds, words, gestures, emotional needs, and sharing experiences like reading and play. Providing programs that support caregivers to strengthen these abilities are the blocks that build healthy foundations for life.
So I encourage you to pause and list 3 takeaways from the video before we continue. So, helping children respond to situational change. First of all, it's important to understand the issue that is affecting the child's lived experiences, and then how much and what kind of information is appropriate for their age, for what we tell them and how we help them cope with the change. How do you best affirm their emotions? So making sure that you're validating and affirming their emotions and telling them that it's okay to feel the way that they feel. And then what do you hope that they will learn from when you talk with them or from your actions? And then could you accidentally be doing harm through your response? Making sure that you're looking at that. And what resources do you need to gather in a timely manner? How do you involve the team? And how do you involve families? So there are 5 main trauma-informed strategies. Building trusting relationships is the first. Creating a safe environment is the second. Promoting emotional regulation is the third. Supporting self-expression is the fourth. And collaborating with families is the fifth. So building trusting relationships really goes back to that attachment and making sure that we are a secure and safe base for children and that they feel comfortable communicating with us. Second is creating a safe environment, ensuring that our environment is safe. Also that our environment is predictable and secure and routine-based, so that all children feel welcome, all children feel safe, all children feel heard. The third is promoting emotional regulation. So teach children how to identify and manage their emotions from infancy to forever. Never stop teaching emotions. So So the first part is identifying their emotions and then teaching them how to manage their emotions. What tools help you manage and regulate your emotions, and how could you share those with children? Strategies such as deep breathing, mindfulness activities, taking a walk, giving yourself affirmations in your brain, can all help regulation. Also supporting self-expression. So encouraging children to express who they are and themselves through play, through art, through storytelling. That is why process art is so important. Please, please, please be doing process art with your children. Give them opportunities for process art. I love product art. Product art is cute, it's great. It has a time and a place. However, classrooms should be 80% process art, 20% product art. If you don't know what process versus product art are, process art is when you give children open-ended materials and open-ended mediums, papers, paint, whatever, and they do what they want. Product art is when you make a cute little ice cream cone, or you make a cute little dad figure with a tie for Father's Day or something like that. Like, product art has teacher influence, where process art is all the child. It is a great form of self-expression. Also collaborate with families, work closely with families and caregivers with trauma-informed practices is key. So keeping open lines of communication involving families and children's decisions regarding the child, there we go, and in their learning to create a holistic support system. So another, can't really do small group, but on your own, research emotional regulation strategies for children who have or currently are experiencing trauma. Create a short infographic. We're not doing this in a group, so you don't need to do this. This is not required, but if you would like to, it's a great activity. Hold on, I'm gonna sneeze. All right, just adding to my 56,242 sneezes. So create an infographic that outlines and describes the strategies that you researched. You can share this infographic in the comment section for the announcement post, if that's possible. And then you can upload this if you would like, it's not mandatory. All right, so final project, we're almost done. I'm really falling off the wall here. So for your final project, you'll create a brochure about information you think every first-time early childhood director should know. An ECE Administrator 101 brochure, if you will. So your brochure should cover both the front and back of the paper. So it should be technically 2 pages, so it's front and back. You will also present your brochure during our last class. So your brochure should include important and relevant WAC regulations. It should include steps on how to evaluate the learning environment and staff. It should include skills necessary to lead ethically and effectively as an ECE administrator. It should include pertinent information about the NAEYC Code of Ethics, or Code of Ethical Conduct is what it is formally called. Should include 3 professional development resources for ECE staff. Should include how to communicate effectively. Should include 3 tips on creating job postings. It should include the steps for balancing a budget. It should include how to advocate in the early childhood field. And then it should include anything else you think is important for a new director to know? Any tips, tricks, ideas? And then you will have an opportunity to share and present this brochure during our last class. It'll be a quick 2 to 3 minute presentation on June 6th. So the final project is due June 5th. Put that in your calendars, put it in your alarms, create a timer that goes off at that point. I'm going to repeat it again. The final is due June 5th. I will not be accepting any late work. I will not be allowing resubmissions. Yeah, there's no extensions either for the final. So no extensions, no resubmissions, no late work. You must turn in this final by June 5th if you would like it to be graded. When do you need to turn in your final? By June 5th. Yay, great. Glad we are all on the same page. So you'll present this final during our class. Your presentation should include or should highlight the reasoning for your brochure, discuss how the brochure would be beneficial for first-time directors, and your favorite aspect of the brochure. Your presentation will be about 2 to 3 minutes. I don't care if it's less. I will stop you at 3 minutes though, just so we can ensure that everybody has enough time to present. Yeah, that's about it. Great tools for brochures include Canva, there's a Microsoft tool that I'm forgetting right now. But Canva, C-A-N-V-A, Canva is a great tool for brochures. Using like a PowerPoint presentation and doing 2 slides, great for brochures. And then how the presentation will work is since you will upload your brochures to Canvas, I will have access to them. So I will put your brochure, I'll screen share your brochure when you give your presentation. If there's any questions about this, please just let me know, and I'm happy to answer them. And then for upcoming assignments, class participation number 4 is due today. So do it now. Do it now. We have our 6th discussion due on Friday, and then Monday we have our final knowledge check. And then our next class is June 6th. That's our last class, and that's when the final presentations will be. The brochure is due June 5th. When is the brochure due? June 5th. Great. The final presentation happens on June 6th. As always, please let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns, just want to chat. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope everybody has a super awesome week. That being said, I'm gonna stop recording now. Here, I'll show my face one more time. Okay, bye everybody.